In 10 years. It was very interesting to come back to Dhaka and see the development since the last time I was here in 2014. And also to have the opportunity to support our dear friends and collaborators on the BTF project, Ventures 37, who are doing a wonderful job and collaborate with my team. Just a quick word on, well, who I am and who LixCap is. It's just to give you an idea of why on earth this fellow is speaking to you. LixCap was founded 10 years ago. Myself, although we're introduced as LixCap USA, in fact, I spend most of my time in Middle East, North Africa, and Africa for the past 25 years in investment in green economy and food logistics, notably cold chain. As LixCap, we adore cold chain. As private investment. So in fact, relative to LixCap, our specialty is in investment advisory as well as economic development advisory. We're really focused on private sector development, private sector investment in collaboration with, say, PPPs and government, supporting on policy dialogues, but very much focused on what the private sector can do in mobilizing capital for win-wins in development. And in fact, we began our life with a cold chain project, that is we LixCap. Myself as co-founder and the other co-founder were asked to do a scoping for helping Morocco in North Africa, which is right across from Europe, just a few kilometers across, to help solve their trade issues relative to perishables exports to USA, to Russia, to European Union and beyond, because they were having problems. Shipments were getting rejected. And so we were asked to look at it, and one of the issues was there was absolutely no cold chain at the port. Morocco had just spent 3 billion euros in a new port which had not integrated any food logistics in it. So myself and my co-founder, we looked at each other and we said, we can do that. And the result was, in fact, we ended up scoping and sponsoring the investment with a Spanish partner, and therefore the name of the company, of course, is a Spanish name, Puerto Tarjer, which became Morocco's first ever port-integrated concession for what I call a cold logistics hub, because it's not cold storage, it's more than cold storage, it's logistics handling to enable the small and medium-sized exporters to reach new markets. And so that I find, we're going to go back to that. We do work, by the way, in Asia. Sometimes I have to stay up to 9 p.m. at night to have a phone call with Fiji. We do work in Indonesia, and of course with our dear friends at Ventures 37 in Bangladesh. So we also have an Asian component. I tend to be focused actually on the North Africa, where my day job, in a way, relative to LixCap, is to be the managing director of our sub-mandate on a European line for green economy financing for the Maghreb, which is the French-speaking part of North Africa, and a significant part. People don't usually think of green economy, they normally think of solar panels. But a significant part of what we do in terms of private financing in this line, which started in 2015 at 60 million euro, we are now at 200 million euro for private financing, and a significant part of that is private sector investment in modern cold chain logistics, whether it is the near farm area and what we call conditioning stations. I forget even how you say that in English. I guess pack houses. To cold logistics hub, to nowadays we're financing. I signed 3 million euro of investment in high efficiency Krona, that's a Swedish company, trucks for shipping, because Morocco can ship by truck up to Spain, for example. So this is a level of investment that I can assure you back in 2012 when we began was not happening. But when it's done right, you can unlock things. And that's what this presentation is hopefully going to convince you of or get us rolling on. Next, where are we at? Oh, there we are. So just the macroeconomic overview. Of course, I think most of the people in the room are all from Bangladesh, so these are numbers that you probably know. But as you can see, we all can see, Bangladesh has achieved some real interesting GDP growth, and notably, most importantly, per capita GDP growth, which is effectively doubled. And by the way, those are numbers very close to Morocco. So when I use Moroccan and North African examples, I'm actually using economic examples that are very close to you guys and very relevant. There are some differences. You have more water. We have less water. But in the end, the challenges are very, very similar. So that level of growth is really interesting, but As my team and Ventures 37 assures me, there are challenges because, like many countries, it's not just, of course, developing countries, there are challenges relative to agriculture, climate change, losses, and as well, of course, maintaining your logistics position relative to competitors and also avoiding the economic losses from wastage. So these headlines are taken from the team. You know, the issues of inflation, the inflation in shipping prices, the inflation in domestic prices, the inflation in energy prices, these are global issues. I face them back in the markets I deal with in the green economy. I face them relative to other markets where, for example, covering a lot in Africa and, of course, everywhere. These are not just challenges for Bangladesh, but we all have to respond to them. Whether it's Bangladesh, whether it's my dear Moroccan friends, whether it's my Senegalese, we're all facing similar issues. Not everyone has the same responses, but I think lots of us have the same kind of thoughts. It's an important area to look at. And part of that response is indeed cold chain. As Michael was just evoking, it's part of an issue relative to avoiding loss, and it's about it's about the economic factors as well as factors beyond the economic factors. So we're just taking one value chain as a, shall we say, a zoom, if we can say a zoom. Onions. So 780 million kilograms of wastage of onions of domestic Bangladeshi production. Now, the team tells me there's only one product. That's 25%. Basically, every year it's about this. And if that loss was avoided, Bangladesh would not need to import not one onion. Maybe you'd want to import a few specialty onions from Holland just for the taste, but I don't know. However, with that loss, you're forced to import to cover the losses. Deadweight loss to the farmer, of course, because the farmer has put energy, cost, seeds into that production. Water loss, well, back in my home markets, water loss is much more important than for you guys, but nevertheless, water loss is still water loss. The energy loss, people forget about when you're producing stuff. There's all this energy inputs. It's the tractor, it's the transport. Those losses are energy losses, and most of us are importing energy and paying dollars for that, dollars you can use elsewhere. Losses throughout relative to the opportunity for better food availability and higher quality food availability with better nutrition. All this resides back to food logistics and handling and cold chain. Now, I'll tell you, when I first got involved with this, I didn't understand how important the cold chain is and logistics handling is to avoiding these problems until I started looking at it, and so we started investing in it. And now I've become, as you can see, an evangelist about it. And it's a point which is critically important because it gets overlooked. People think about production and they forget what happens afterwards. I want to zoom in on the potential for investment and also the potential for bringing broad value to the economy, to the wider people doing this. And so we have an estimated annual economic loss for the F&V is fruits and vegetables. Say 10 top fruits and vegetable products for 2023. Estimated economic loss, $2.4 billion US. That's not small money. I don't think for anybody, even if I was in the US, I don't think that'd be a small amount of money for me to say. So that's an economic loss, is deadweight loss to the economy. That's what we're thinking about avoiding, relating to achievements and seeing sustainable good investment in modern cold chain. Next slide. Oh yes, here we are. So parallel tales. Why are we saying parallel tales? So people often don't put trade balance and food security necessarily together, and particularly when they're thinking about logistics, but in fact they do go together. In this particular area notably. So key obstacles in terms of Bangladesh and its trade, in particular on the food trade, and we're talking perishable products, not necessarily, and by the way, cold chain can be just temperature controlled, avoiding the temperature going up too high. It doesn't have to be frozen. People often confuse cold chain with something frozen or really cold. It often is, but there's also temperature control to prevent it from going up too high. So lack of cold chain infrastructure. I mentioned earlier when I was opening up about ports. That was where we started. Us as LixCap as an investor and as an investment advisor, we started ports. Ports are really critical, as well as entry and exit points. But then there's the interior, where you have, as Michael evoked, what I call the conditioning stations. I'm translating from my other language because I can't remember the proper English on it. But in any event, it's where you do the handling and the cleaning and the cooling on vegetables or potatoes or whatever, so that you can store them properly and avoid wastage. And also to be able to have the kind of cleaning and handling so that you can access higher value chains. I'd like to tell a story about a project we did as an advisory to one of the US government programs in a country I won't mention. I'll just say it's one of our operating countries. And the farmers were looking at exporting pomegranates to Europe, to Carrefour. Now, Carrefour is the big, huge French supermarket chain. It's a monster supermarket chain covering most of Europe, and normally they're on the high value ends. So the Moroccan farmers, I just said the country. Well, there we are. The farmers are arguing we as these guys doing the investment in cold chain, we should go and argue with Carrefour to lower their quality standards. Now it's just like, dudes, that's not going to happen. What the solution is in fact there's some good achievable investment using, for example, modular prefab cold storage, conditioning stations, where you do some cleaning. Instead of storing your pomegranates in this pyramid on the ground in the sun, which, in the end, not good. We can bring you a solution which is investable, and you can access the Carrefour and you can start exporting. Not everyone believed it, but some people do. And that starts the ball rolling to having achievement, because then the farmer, instead of selling his pomegranate into the traditional market, which is getting him an okay price, but not an awesome price, it's a missed opportunity, because selling into even the domestic market, where the supermarket that's serving the big cities with more and more urbanization, there's a better price than in the local market. So these are opportunities. And also, it's improving the quality of that pomegranate. It's saving the nutrition in that. We've jumped ahead here, but I think that's the story. And the Bangladesh cold chain prospects are here. And what they touch on is economic growth, stronger global market presence, price stability, food security, better health prospects. I've already touched on that. Improved livelihood to farmers. I think I've touched on that. All these things together, we're forecasting a compound annual growth rate of 11% from 25 to 31. I'm a financial guy, so we tend to use compound annual growth rates rather than just the straight line growth rates. So it tells you an opportunity. Next slide. An opportunity that touches on the government's vision for investment. So when we evoke, the better nutrition, when we evoke the better quality, when we evoke avoided loss, which can avoid imports and also achieve imports, we're touching on these national priorities. An investment in modern cold chain can help you get there. And it's very achievable. I'm doing it in Africa. And if you can do it in Africa, you can do it in Bangladesh. We've achieved it in Morocco with a very similar level of development, a very similar level of per capita income. Not the same level of population, but very similar levels of other things. Let's go ahead to the next one. Now, opening the pathways, I'm a finance guy, so I could spend an hour talking about this, and probably you'd all get bored and leave the room, but except for the bankers, they might like it. But again, it goes back to three main factors, I would say: the cost of capital, the effective cost of equipment, and then, of course, a bankable project design, which includes, and this is really key, because a lot of people will say you can't do cold chain, you can't invest in it. Well, you can, but you need good energy efficiency and operational optimization. Some of my friends are going to talk about this and how to do it. I can say that when we did it at the port of Tangimed as a concession, nobody believed in it, because the history had been, I think, as I understood correctly here, similar to Bangladesh, single product cold chain, which wasn't doing too well on the financial return. We built high energy efficiency, operational efficiency, and now that project, which I retain a small equity stake in, that is Lixcap, is, well, I'll say very embarrassingly profitable, because energy. You can go ahead and, just a quick note, I'm not a tariff guy, so I can only just say that the team has emphasized to me that there's some issues relative to the capital equipment and tariffs in Bangladesh, and so there's a suggestion, just for consideration, again, I'm not a tariff specialist, that Bangladesh might want to consider in terms of promoting the investment in cold chain, to look at some of the comparable countries and come up with a tariff solution that might, I would say, suggest advantage high energy efficiency components of cold chain, in order to promote that infrastructure investment. There are different ways to do it, and there's a fellow here in the room who will be in the afternoon who can talk about that in much more fluency than I can. But in terms of capital costs and making it more affordable, that is something for consideration. Now, just on the matter of cost of capital interest rate, although I'm aware that the costs, lending costs in Bangladesh came down enormously if we look back, say, 15 years, we are seeing, of course, here a re-escalation of lending costs, which suggests that probably you want to have, this is from the Central Bank of Bangladesh, by the way, we suggest you probably want for particularly SME investment to think about some mitigating factors. There are many reasons for these things to happen, but perhaps credit enhancement or credit guarantees, possibly with development finance institutions, Asian Development Bank, etc., could be useful. I'm aware the credit guarantee facility exists. It seems to be narrow relative to being able to apply broadly to cold chain. So a broad suggestion that this could be an area of consideration to help achieve cold chain investment as a small-scale infrastructure more broadly. That requires more work, but BTF is here, and I don't want to speak for Michael, but just a suggestion, talking to Michael, I think they would like to engage in that area. If not, he can hit me afterwards. Next slide. And here is the one I really like to talk about because it's us. So as an example, this is a real-life example here. I like to go up and walk around about it, but I'm going to contain myself. This is our port-integrated infrastructure example. At the Port of Tangimed, brand new port built started operations 2012, several billion euros. Total investment now is between 5 and 7 billion euros because they expanded it. New container port. The key thing is they initially built it, there was zero logistics infrastructure for perishables. Zero, none, nada. And the Moroccans were complaining, well, our shipments are getting rejected. Well, why? Because they were being inspected on the bloody docks in the sun. And food being inspected in the sun, not good. Very good, bad, very bad. We ended up building this facility with a local partner plus an international Spanish partner, several million euro investment, using a blending, that's the development finance term for adding in some technical assistance grants, so that would be equivalent of BTF for scoping out the technical side of things. Us as investment and advisor people, we did, of course, modeling and business plan, but technical items, GCCA brought us technical expertise for a high operational and energy efficiency facility, including integrated solar PV for self-consumption, running 40% less consumption than your average cold storage in Morocco. Absolutely brilliant, because in cold storage, obviously, probably everyone can easily guess, energy is your key, along with operations. This now, we might show a video later, this facility now, it's a private concession, is now being used by the Port of Tangimed to promote Morocco for a trade hub destination. They actually show us they show the video when they're showing it to international investors as a key point of infrastructure. That's how important it is. They didn't sponsor it, but they adopted it afterwards once they brought it and we saw it happening. So the interesting part is we brought in a number of tools, including a credit guarantee from the US, because we had to do it in hard currency financing because of the economic zone. Onshore it would have been a local guarantee, but in any case. So this is a sort of an example of what can be done, and in a country that is at a very comparable level of economic and financial development, very similar levels of operations and very similar needs. Not identical, of course, because they're a drier climate and those sort of things. Next slide. Just as a touting for what BTF and us as LIXCAP as part of supporting Ventures 37, in terms of, you may be asking yourselves, well, how do I get started on thinking about this? There's a cold chain market dynamic dashboard as a tool with the address right there, btfproject.org, where you can find it, where you can use it as for data planning and data access relative to Bangladesh and comparables. So this is a tool you can play with and use, in fact, to start on project planning. And of course, I would encourage you also to reach out to BTF. So conclusion, fostering an economic environment for logistics growth, particularly cold chain, obviously, is what I'm talking, evangelizing about. Cold chain is a priority sector. That, I think, is extremely meaningful, as I've understood, relative to your policy framework here, because on one hand, on the agri-logistics and on the agri-exports, Bangladesh is underperforming relative to comparables, even though you're beating in other areas. And so this could be an area where you can really achieve some catch-ups by enhancing the policy priority focus. Developing as well extra blended finance options, which may be a combination of public and private, as well as engagement with the development finance institutions, whether it's the IFC, whether it's the Asian Development Bank, JICA. I know, for example, back in what I do in North Africa, we have work also with Korea as well, the Korea Technical Assistance something or other fund. So the number, and there are not a lot of people interested in this. And finally, indeed, prioritizing construction of cold handling infrastructure at the ports to support the export growth. Obviously, my own example, I really believe in it, also pays dividends, literal dividends to me, but the sort of thing is extremely important. It is achievable. If you can achieve it in North Africa, you can achieve it in Africa, you can achieve it in Bangladesh. And I believe that is probably the end of the presentation. There we are. I hope that was helpful to you all, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. William Fellows, MD Lixcap USA, for your very detailed presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, I have an announcement. Our respected guest, Ms. Sarah Gillespie, Agriculture Attaché of the US Embassy in Bangladesh, has joined us, requesting her to take her seat on stage. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now take a visual tour that will help us understand cold chain projects better. Let's watch a short video on the cold chain development project Frio Porto in Tangier, Morocco. Please play the video.
Les activités de notre entité frigorifique au port Tangemed sont toujours maintenues. Bien évidemment, toutes les mesures préventives sont prises pour la lutte contre.
Ladies and gentlemen, visuals are always helpful. I hope you enjoyed that. So let us move on with our very valuable speeches. I will now cordially request Dr. M. Master Riaz, CEO of Policy Exchange Bangladesh, to share his valuable thoughts on the keynote presentation.
Thank you. Today's chief guest, Honorable Advisor, Mr. Salman Fazlur Rahman MP, today's session chair, Mr. Luqman Hussain Mia, Honorable Executive Chairman, BIDA, respected Secretary, Fisheries and Livestock, Mr. Salimuddin, Michael Parr, BTF team leader, representative from the US Embassy, Mr. Azad Chaudhary, Mustafa Azad Chaudhary, Chairman, Cold Storage Association, and today's keynote presenter, William Fellow. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, Assalamu alaikum. At the outset, let me congratulate both BIDA as well as BTF Venture 37 for bringing such a August gathering together such important stakeholders together on a very critical enabler of Bangladesh's growth in the coming days. I think it's very timely because it relates to a number of important economic imperatives of the country. So in next 8.5 minutes, I would like to shed light on three things. First, why what William presented very aptly and in a very informative way, why is it important for Bangladesh? It is important for Bangladesh for at least two important economic considerations. Bangladesh and agriculture, they go hand in hand. Not only we have a rich heritage in agriculture and comparative advantage, but also this is an important economic sector. Though the contribution of agriculture came down from a much higher number to that of about 11 to 12% of GDP at the moment, it is still an important sector because about 37% of the country's employment, directly and indirectly, derive their income from agriculture-related activities, whether it's cultivation, agri-supply chain, or agribusiness. The sector also receives 47% of the nation's spending. The 180 million people spends 47% of their income on food. And this consumption, if you look at the latest household expenditure, income expenditure survey, is on the rise. And by 2031, we are going to have 50% of the population, the country's population, in the urban areas. And by 2050, I think the absolute number is going to be 110 million people in the urban areas, who is going to have both a different as well as more sophisticated pattern of food consumption. So Bangladesh's development aspirations from an employment, income, consumption point of view, agriculture remains critically important. Secondly, export diversification, and William, I think, shed light on that as well, the trade and the other aspects. Now, Bangladesh has done tremendously well in ready-made garment sector. It is second largest in the world. However, our concentration in export basket remains very high. It is 84% ready-made garments. 11 years ago, it was 78, 77%. If we look at our comparator countries, as William was referring to, Thailand, their 2022 agriculture export, agri-food, $47 billion, 16% of their total export. Vietnam, $53 billion, 14% of their total export. And India, our next door neighbor, $50 billion, 12% of their total export. Bangladesh stands at 1.54% as of FY 2023, that completed about $843 million of agro-farm export. So this export diversification or economic diversification of sectors is going to be a critical enabler for Bangladesh's aspiration to upper middle income as well as high income country by 2041. And cold chain is going to be a big success enabler for agri-productivity, and we have seen from the presentation that close to 44% we have post-harvest loss. Onion often comes to the headlines of the newspaper, causes a lot of problems in the households as well as cost of living. And we have seen, what a big, more than 700 million kilogram of losses that William showed. And the $2.4 billion of loss, economic loss, in just 10 products in the fruits and vegetable category. So this tells you that how important this whole issue of the cold chain infrastructure, the cold chain ecosystem is going to be for Bangladesh's agriculture sector, for its sustainability, for its productivity, as well as Bangladesh's export diversification effort, which the Honorable Prime Minister has announced as one of the top economic priority of the country. My second focus point is there are some very important findings that William just shared with us through his keynote presentation, which I feel is going to be really important both for the private sector here, but also our government policymaker. First and foremost, he has shed light on the growth prospect or the demand growth in this important area of agriculture infrastructure ecosystem, cold chain. More than 11% CAGR and a compound annual growth rate. But also, he has showed us from the Moroccan example how important or how prosperous this whole initiative can be, both for the country, the economy, the agriculture sector, but for the investors. With innovative financing such as impact investment, blended finance, or easier term financing or longer term, particularly long term, more conducive terms financing, IRR, internal rate of return, we just saw it went up from 7% to more than 21% for the Moroccan farm. So this global best practice and the success stories are eye-opening. And then it was really important to see how entire issue of finance, access to finance, is going to be important in unlocking the investment potential in this entire sector. My third and last focus areas. So all great. Clearly important for Bangladesh. Clearly there are best practice examples, and there are some important reform areas or priorities that William suggested. How do we make how do we walk the talk? How do we make it happen in Bangladesh? So I have a few issues. So first and foremost, I would like to say that this very important enabler of this agriculture success and therefore the economic success will have to be embedded more prominently and concretely in some of our national initiatives. For instance, we are going to have a national logistics policy, thanks to the leadership by the Prime Minister's office, which was ably supported by our honorable advisor, Mr. Salman Rahman, as well as BIDA on the investment side. We're going to see a national logistics policy hopefully coming as a proof within a month or so. So we have to make sure that the issue of cold chain and cold chain ecosystem is very prominently captured in that logistics policy, but also in the implementation of that logistics policy. And there, what is really important is there is a 63-point government is being very forward-looking, I have to say, in the case of logistics. So they're not only taking the logistics policy forward, they've already prepared a 63-point regulatory reform action plan, which is really important for unlocking the opportunities immediately. And a lot of those relate to enablers of cold chain infrastructure and then cold chain investment decision. We feel it is going to be really important to roll out those important reform as well as policy enhancement improvement plan. Second, the role of infrastructure. I think land is going to be a critical issue. Bangladesh is a land-starved country, and we're not going to get additional land other than perhaps some reclamation from either river or the sea. However, in the sort of hinterland, land is an issue, and that's where we have to bring this cold chain into the focus of public-private partnership strategy of the country, the PPP. That is probably the most effective way to address the land issue and the cost of land issue, which can be a very binding constraint on that. We are going to require a number of trade facilitation reforms. On the customs side, we require much more efficient border clearance. There has been improvement over the last few years, but we are still 3 times more costly or time-consuming than Vietnam, and 4 times more time-consuming and costly for a clearance of an export or import cargo compared to India. The customs as well as broader border clearance requires a number of reforms. Expand the authorized economic operator system, implement the automated risk management system, bring, fully, in a full effective way, implement the pre-clearance processing or pre-arrival processing system on the customs side. And on the inland container as well as on the overall logistics infrastructure side, I think Bangladesh is going to require a number of changes or reforms in the overall logistics ecosystem. First and foremost, the restriction on foreign investment, capping it at 49% for many of the logistics related services and infrastructure is actually not allowing the much needed foreign investment to come into the country, and the reform there is highly in order. Overall, inland container ports or ICDs are going to be important for success of cold chain ecosystem and the initiative. There, I think we have to come out from the old age mindset of cold storages being only for potatoes. No, cold storages can be for onions, cold storages can be for fruits and vegetables, they can be for healthcare products as well. So we're going to need that mindset change primarily from the private sector. And I was talking to the president of the Cold Storage Association, Babu Bhai, and he certainly sees that possibility. But we now need the entire private sector to rise up to that mindset change reality as well as the opportunity. We are also going to need government to allow more inland container depots near production areas. At the moment, all of the 18 or 19 ICDs are in Chittagong. So we're going to need some ICDs, particularly from the cold chain perspective, nearer to agro hubs, onion hubs, potato hubs, fruits and vegetable hubs, and processing centers. And finally, railway plays a very important role in the logistics, freight transportation, including for agriculture, in connecting the port and the hinterland. The Railway Act currently does not allow private participation in terms of utilization of railway assets for logistics and other purposes. We know a Railway Act amendment is on the way. It will be important to consider allowing private investment and private participation together with railway authorities in developing logistics, including cold chain system. So thank you once again for giving me the opportunity, and I wish BTF and BIDA all the success on this important initiative.
Thank you, Dr. Masud Riaz, for your valuable policy insights relating cold chain to Bangladesh's economic imperatives. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now listen to our distinguished special guest. I am pleased to request the distinguished president of the Bangladesh Cold Storage Association, Mr. Mustafa Ajad Chaudhry Babu, to share his valuable thoughts with us.
Bismillah Rahman Rahim. Bangladesh Investment Development Authority BIDA এবং USDA বাংলাদেশ স্টেট ফেসিলিটেশন প্রজেক্ট BTF কর্তৃক যৌথভাবে আয়োজিত আজকের কোল্ড চেইন ইনভেস্টমেন্ট কনফারেন্স 2024-এর সম্মানিত প্রধান অতিথি মাননীয় প্রধানমন্ত্রীর শিল্প বিনিয়োগ উপদেষ্টা জনাব সালমান এফ রহমান, আজকের কনফারেন্সে সভাপতিত্ব করছেন মিস্টার লোকমান হোসেন মিয়া, এক্সিকিউটিভ চেয়ারম্যান বাংলাদেশ ইনভেস্টমেন্ট ডেভেলপমেন্ট অথরিটি, মঞ্চে উপবিষ্ট বিশেষ অতিথিবৃন্দ, সুধীবৃন্দ, আসসালামু আলাইকুম। আমি প্রথমে আজকে যৌথ আয়োজকদের ধন্যবাদ জানাই বাংলাদেশ কোল্ড অ্যাসোসিয়েশনকে আজকে এই কনফারেন্সে আমন্ত্রণ জানানোর জন্য। কোল্ড চেইন বাংলাদেশের জন্য এখন নেক্সট আমি মনে করি যে ডেস্টিনেশন যেখানে ইকোনমিককে শক্তিশালী করতে পারে। মাসুদ রিয়াজ সাহেব তার বক্তব্যে বলেছেন যে 84% এক্সপোর্ট হয় গার্মেন্টস সেক্টর থেকে আর মাত্র 16% বিভিন্ন সেক্টর থেকে। আমরা মনে করি যে বাংলাদেশে অ্যাগ্রো প্রসেসিং ইন্ডাস্ট্রি খুবই সম্ভাবনা রয়েছে এবং বাংলাদেশ থেকে যে আমরা অ্যাগ্রো প্রসেসিং যে অ্যাগ্রো প্রোডাক্ট যেসব রয়েছে সেগুলো যদি আমরা এক্সপোর্ট করতে পারি সেখান থেকে আমরা অনেক ফরেন কারেন্সি আর্ন করতে পারি। বাংলাদেশে কোল্ড স্টোরেজ বলতে যে 60-এর দশকে যে কোল্ড স্টোরেজ বাংলাদেশে স্থাপন করা হয়েছিল 450-টিরও বেশি কোল্ড স্টোরেজ বাংলাদেশে রয়েছে যেগুলো মূলত পটেটো বেসড কোল্ড স্টোরেজ। কিন্তু আমাদের মাঝে অনেক উদ্যোক্তা রয়েছেন, অনেক কোল্ড স্টোরেজ মালিকরা রয়েছেন, তারা কিন্তু ডাইভার্সিফিকেশন চাচ্ছেন। কোল্ড চেইন সিস্টেমটাকে তারা এখনও কিন্তু সেভাবে বুঝে উঠতে পারেননি কীভাবে কোল্ড চেইন সিস্টেমটাকে ডেভেলপ করে তাদের বিজনেসে সংযুক্ত করতে পারেন। মাসুদ রিয়াজ সাহেব বলছেন যে শুধু পটেটো না, এর পাশাপাশি আমরা পেঁয়াজ বাংলাদেশে বর্তমানে একটি দ্রব্যমূল্য হাই প্রাইসে বিক্রি হচ্ছে এবং আমরা যখনই ইন্ডিয়া থেকে ইম্পোর্ট বন্ধ হয়ে যায় তখনই কিন্তু আমাদের এই পেঁয়াজের দাম 100 টাকা কেজির ওপরে চলে যায়। আমরা বাংলাদেশে বিশেষ করে ফরিদপুর, পাবনা এবং বেশ কিছু জায়গায় পেঁয়াজ উৎপন্ন হচ্ছে এবং এই পেঁয়াজের 25% পেঁয়াজ ওয়েস্টেজ হচ্ছে। এই জন্য সরকারি নীতি নির্ধারক থেকে এই আমাদের উদ্যোক্তাদেরকে আগ্রহিত করার জন্য একটা পলিসি প্রয়োজন, যাতে করে আমরা পেঁয়াজের কোল্ড স্টোরেজ আমরা স্থাপন করতে পারি এবং এর টেকনোলজি কী আছে, এই পেঁয়াজকে আমরা কীভাবে সংরক্ষণ করতে পারি এবং কীভাবে মার্কেটিং করতে পারি, এই বিষয়ে সরকারি নীতি নির্ধারক এবং বিশেষ করে মাননীয় প্রধানমন্ত্রী শিল্প উপদেষ্টা আমাদের বিজনেস লিডার সালমান এব্রাহিমের আমি দৃষ্টি আকর্ষণ করব, যাতে করে আমরা নতুন উদ্যোক্তা থেকে বাংলাদেশ কোল্ড অ্যাসোসিয়েশনের মাধ্যমে এই অনিয়ন বেসড কোল্ড চেইন এবং কোল্ড স্টোরেজ আমরা যাতে স্থাপন করতে পারি। ইতিমধ্যে আমাদের মাঝে বেশ কিছু কোল্ড স্টোরেজ অনার ক্যারটের ওপর, গাজরের ওপর কোল্ড স্টোরেজ করার চিন্তাভাবনা করছেন এবং ইতিমধ্যে ইন্ডিয়াতে দিল্লিতে যেয়ে এবং এই ধরনের কোল্ড স্টোরেজ দেখেও এসেছেন এবং তারা করার চিন্তাভাবনা করছেন। তাই আমরা মনে করি যে শুধু কোল্ড চেইন বলতে যে পটেটো বেসড কোল্ড স্টোরেজ বোঝানো হয়, এই ধ্যান ধারণা থেকে বাইর করে নিয়ে আসার জন্য, মানুষকে অ্যাওয়ারনেস সৃষ্টি করার জন্য, উদ্যোক্তাদের আগ্রহিত করার জন্য গভর্নমেন্টের পলিসি সাপোর্টের প্রয়োজন রয়েছে। আমার মনে পড়ে 1969-এ যখন বাংলাদেশে কোল্ড স্টোরেজ হচ্ছিল ইস্ট পাকিস্তানের সময়, তখন এই কোল্ড স্টোরেজ করার জন্য সরকারি পর্যায়ে উদ্যোক্তা সেই সময়কার বিজনেসম্যানদেরকে উৎসাহিত করার জন্য কিন্তু সরকার থেকে বিশেষ পলিসি নেওয়া হয়েছিল। আমার মনে হয় পেঁয়াজ, ক্যারট এবং ফ্রুট এবং ভেজিটেবল যে জন্য আমাদের কোল্ড চেইন কোল্ড স্টোরেজ দরকার, যেটা আমরা সিপোর্টে করতে পারি এবং ল্যান্ড পোর্টে করতে পারি। বিশেষ করে অনেক ফ্রুট আসে যেগুলো আমাদের ইম্পোর্ট বেসড, কিন্তু সেগুলোর মান কীরকম আছে সেগুলোকে ফরমালিন দিয়ে রাখা হচ্ছে এবং আমাদের ভোক্তারা ফরমালিন যুক্ত সেই ধরনের ফল এবং খাচ্ছে। সেই জন্য আমাদের এই ফ্রুট ভেজিটেবলের যে সুযোগ রয়েছে, এছাড়া মেডিসিনের নির্দিষ্ট একটি তাপমাত্রায় যে মেডিসিনকে ঠিক রাখার জন্য এবং সেই মেডিসিন যাতে সঠিক থাকে তার জন্য এখানে কোল্ড চেইনের বিরাট ভূমিকা রয়েছে। যাই হোক, আমি বক্তব্য দীর্ঘায়িত করব না। আমাদের বাংলাদেশ কোল্ড অ্যাসোসিয়েশন ইতিমধ্যে ইউএসডিএর সঙ্গে আমরা এমইউ সাইন করেছি এবং মাইকেল জে পারের অফিসে আমরা বেশ কয়েকটি মিটিং হয়েছে এবং তারা আমাদের বাংলাদেশ কোল্ড অ্যাসোসিয়েশনকে সাপোর্ট দিচ্ছে এবং আমরা চাই বাংলাদেশে পটেটো বেসড কোল্ড স্টোরেজের পাশাপাশি যাতে অন্যান্য সেক্টরে যেগুলো বাংলাদেশের মানুষের জন্য খুবই প্রয়োজন, মানুষের অর্থনৈতিকভাবে যে আমাদের সাধারণ মানুষরা যে বিশেষ করে অনিয়ন বা অন্যান্য দ্রব্য অধিক দামে ক্রয় করতে হচ্ছে এবং তাদের একটি বেশ তাদের ইনকামের অর্থ সেখানে ব্যয় হচ্ছে, সেখানে যাতে আমরা সাধারণ ভোক্তাদেরকে এইসব যে পণ্য যার ইম্পোর্ট বেস যেসব পণ্য আছে যেগুলো ইম্পোর্ট বন্ধ হয়ে গেলে দাম বেড়ে যায়, সেখান থেকে আমরা দেশে উৎপন্ন করে কোল্ড চেইনের মাধ্যমে মানুষকে আমরা সহনীয় পর্যায়ে যাতে সেসব ভোক্তা পর্যায়ে সেসব আমরা ভেজিটেবল ফ্রুটগুলো দিতে পারি। এই ব্যাপারে আমি সরকারের নীতিগত সাপোর্ট এবং পলিসি সাপোর্ট এবং বিশেষ করে ফিনান্সিয়াল সাপোর্ট খুবই প্রয়োজন রয়েছে। এবং এখন বর্তমানে যে ব্যাংকের সুদের হার 13-13.5% চলে গিয়েছে, এত অধিকারে সুদ দিয়ে হয়তো কোনো এন্টারপ্রেনার এই ধরনের রিস্কি অনিয়ন কোল্ড স্টোরেজ বা ফ্রুট ভেজিটেবল কোল্ড করতে হয়তো আগ্রহিত হবে না। এর জন্য এই ধরনের কোল্ড চেইনকে ডেভেলপ করার জন্য আলাদা একটি ঋণ একটা নীতি যাতে হয়, এভাবে আমি সালমান ইব্রাহিম ভাইয়ের কাছে আবেদন করব যাতে এই বিষয়গুলিতে যদি সাকসেসফুল যখনই হবে তখন আমাদের কোল্ড স্টোরেজ অনার বা অন্যান্য এন্টারপ্রেনাররা যে অন্য বিজনেসে আছেন তারা আগ্রহিত হয়ে এই ধরনের কোল্ড চেইন সিস্টেমে সংযুক্ত হবে, যাতে দেশ ও জাতির ইকোনমি ডেভেলপ করবে এবং ভোক্তারা সহনীয় পর্যায়ে সেসব পণ্য কিনতে পারবে। এই বক্তব্য রেখে আবারও আয়োজককে ধন্যবাদ জানাই বক্তব্য শেষ করছি। আল্লাহ হাফেজ।
Thank you, President Bangladesh Cold Storage Association, for your very pragmatic remarks, especially for your emphasis on cold storage diversification. Thank you. It is now my sincere pleasure to ask Ms. Sarah Gileski, the Agricultural Attaché of the U.S. Embassy in Bangladesh, to address this ceremony.
Good afternoon, everyone. My apologies for being late, but I cut my visit to Noakhali short and drove right back to Dhaka in order to join this conference today because I feel like cold chain is such an important topic for expanding trade and U.S. investment in Bangladesh, so I wanted to make sure I could be here today. I want to acknowledge our chief guest, Mr. Salman Rahman, the MP and private industry and investment advisor to the Prime Minister, Mr. MD Salam Udan, Secretary, Ministry of Fisheries and Livestock, and Mr. Mustafa Azad Chowdhury Babu, the president of the Cold Storage Association, along with all the other representatives of Bangladesh government, ministry, agencies, and the private sector here today. USDA links U.S. agriculture to the world in order to enhance trade opportunities and support global food security. We work to remove trade barriers and facilitate the free flow of agricultural goods. The U.S. government is proud to work with policymakers, regulators, researchers, and farmers to strengthen agricultural development and trade facilitation here in Bangladesh. As we all know, trade plays a pivotal role in shaping a country's economic landscape, and Bangladesh has been making remarkable strides in some areas. However, some challenges remain in the export and import of agricultural commodities. As we've been discussing here today, one of the biggest challenges limiting Bangladesh's import and export of goods, in particular agricultural products, is strong temperature-controlled logistics and cold storage. Without cold storage, agricultural products can quickly go bad, which affects both the quality and overall food safety. As Bangladesh looks to diversify exports, addressing post-harvest loss and ensuring the long-term quality and safety of agricultural products is key. Bangladesh also has a growing middle class that is demanding a wider selection of products from the global market. As lifestyles change and urbanization continues, busy middle-class families will want to have more refrigerated and frozen products that will have longer shelf lives and be quicker to prepare as part of their busy and hectic lifestyles. Thus, Bangladesh will see increased demand for frozen and refrigerated products. High-end restaurants, hotels, and other businesses are also demanding frozen and chilled beef, poultry, seafood, and dairy products. Having an unbroken cold chain from port to retail is vital to bringing fresh, chilled, and frozen products safely to consumers. Without cold storage, importers will not want to risk importing goods that could spoil between the port and the final destinations, and buyers in other countries may be wary of the quality and safety of products if they are unsure if the cold chain can be preserved all the way from the producer to the ship to the final destination. I hope this investment summit provides those interested in investing in cold storage with a better understanding of the long-term opportunities that exist here. I also hope that it leads the policymakers in this room to work on policies that ease the challenges of doing business and investing in Bangladesh. In order to meet the lofty goals that Bangladesh has set to become a middle-income country and a high-income country, cold chain will play an important role. Cold chain will diversify export opportunities, bring in new products, add jobs, and maybe most importantly of all, ensure food safety. The U.S. Embassy supports bringing additional capacity for cold chain logistics. In addition to the work that's being conducted under the BTF project, our Foreign Commercial Service can support Bangladeshi businesses to access U.S. cold chain equipment and logistics companies. And as William mentioned in his presentation earlier, financing is important. And through USDA's Facility Guarantee Program, we can also help with finance guarantees for the exports of U.S. equipment to Bangladesh. So we hope that anyone interested in these programs will reach out to the U.S. Embassy, to myself and my colleagues, and we're happy to connect you with quality suppliers and discuss financing opportunities in more detail. So I'd like to thank BETA and our BTF team for working on this presentation today and being strong partners in the cold chain development and investment. And I want to thank everyone for attending today. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gillespie, for highlighting the support being provided by your esteemed office. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, now our distinguished special guest, respected Secretary of the Ministry of Fisheries and Livestock, Mr. Mohammad Selimuddin, will share his valuable thoughts with us.
Distinguished chief guest, Honorable Private Industry and Investment Advisor to the Prime Minister, Mr. Salman Fazlur Rahman MP, respected Chair, Executive Chairman of BIDA, Mr. Luqman Hussain Mia, respected special guest, Mustafa Ajad Chaudhary Babu, President Cold Storage Association, and Project Director BTF Project, Mr. Michael Japar, and especially keynote speaker, Mr. William Fellows, CEO Policy Exchange Bangladesh, Dr. M. Masroor Reza, Senior Representative from Government and Private Sector, members of the media, valued participants. Bangladesh agriculture sector has long been a cornerstone of its economy, currently comprising of around 11% of our GDP and providing employment of 45% of the national workforce. So it is important to recognize the pivotal role of the development of cold chain as infrastructure. Definitely it will hold in shaping the future of Bangladesh's food security, food production, particularly in fish and livestock. I think adopting cold chain management and post-harvest technologies will have a transformative impact on our nation's food security, economic prosperity, and global competitiveness. So I believe that improving cold chains and post-harvest infrastructure is not merely a matter of convenience to the consumers. It's a strategic step to reducing waste, creating export opportunities and export surpluses, enhancing the income of our hardworking farmers. The statistics speaks for themselves. Post-harvest losses in perishable products can range from 10% to around 45% in Bangladesh. So it is important to note that decreasing these losses would have a positive impact on our farmers' income, along with price and supply of products, and to establish the stability in the market. This issue is intertwined with our commitment to achieving the SDG goal, which is, we call it zero hunger. I think by optimizing these cold chains and leveraging innovations such as electronic certifications, temperature monitoring softwares, I think, and supply chains data analytics, we can usher in a new era of efficiency and transparency. Food safety management is quite important for us. Particularly, this system allows us to protect our domestic needs and open export opportunities to markets that requires this kind of certificates. These technologies not only streamline operations but also empower us to reduce paperwork and ensure the safety of supply chains as well as the nutritional well-being of the people of the Bangladesh. So as I am the secretary of this Ministry of Fisheries and Livestock, in the realm of fisheries, cold chain is playing a significant role here, and significant role to play also. Fish provides a staggering around 60% of our national animal protein consumption. So, moreover, this sector, I think fisheries sector serves as cornerstone of rural employment generation and poverty alleviation, with the power to foster inclusive growth and socio-economic empowerment. Despite the pivotal role of the fisheries sector, I think this sector is playing in our national economy, and post-harvest losses remain a challenge to the sector. And according to the Bangladesh Food Planning and Monitoring Unit, these losses stand at around concerning around 12.5%, underscoring the urgent need of intervention. By expanding access to cold chain management technologies such as refrigerated trucks, cold warehouses, and embracing value-added services like blast freezing, we can safeguard the integrity of our nation's fishery products and maximize their export potential. And you know, processed meat are also getting popularity and demand in the city areas. And already some local entrepreneurs have already been engaged in this sector, but they are facing some challenges and limitations, and we are clearly aware of that. So I think this USDA BTF project initiatives in developing the cold chain and temperature control logistics industry in Bangladesh, and I believe that it definitely will reduce the post-harvest losses of the agricultural products. That includes undoubtedly fish and livestock also. So, and again, it will, this kind of discussions and exchange of the statistics, views with each other, it will definitely create a new arena in boosting the trade and high-valued product. I think BIDA is such a platform where investments, exporters, producers come and sit and talk together. And definitely this cold chain investment conference will give us a good opportunity in understanding the opportunities, prospects, challenges, the overall market and economic structure of this area. We have 100 economic zones, special economic zones where agro-based processing industry could be established. As always, our Honorable Prime Minister emphasizes, and we have 100% electricity coverage throughout the country. These two indicators definitely will have created an environment and we have a good infrastructure also, and this definitely has created an environment in establishing the cold chain throughout the country. However, we need some special attention in land, I think, port facilities, logistics, customs and borders clearing issues, where time and cost issues are quite important. As the CEO has very clearly defined all the major indicators. And our export diversification is quite important for us. And definitely we help to build a cold chain infrastructure throughout the country, and cold chain investment is also required. So some sort of policy interventions and special tariffs in power consumptions for the cold chains installations, and some customs regularities could be discussed and rearranged, as our honorable advisors are quite aware of these issues. I hope in this conference we will get some clear insights for the future, and particularly it will definitely help us, especially the policy makers, in identifying the right ways and methods to create a cold chain infrastructure in the country. Again, definitely we shall have to support here the private sector as well, so that the private sector can play the pivotal role in this sector. So I appreciate the BIDA for this kind of initiatives, discussions today, and definitely we will get some conclusive ideas from here, and we will engage with the, already have engaged with the USDA, and they visited our ministry, and we have a series of talks, and we have engaged our departments and offices to discuss more on other related issues. I think this kind of interactions definitely will give us a better way, will give us to find the better solutions in this sector. Thank you.
Thank you, respected sir, for your very positive remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, we have now reached the focal point of this ceremony. With great pleasure, I request the esteemed chief guest of this ceremony, the Honorable Private Industry and Investment Advisor to the Prime Minister, Mr. Salman Fazlur Rahman MP, to enlighten us with his perspective.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. The chair of today's session, Executive Chairman of BIDA, the Secretary Ministry of Fisheries and Livestock, President of the Cold Storage Association, the Agricultural Attaché of the United States Embassy in Bangladesh, Mr. Michael J. Parr, who's the Project Director of the Bangladesh Trade Facilitation Project, and the keynote presenter, Mr. William Fellows, and Dr. Masroor Reyaz, who commented on the keynotes. Ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum, and a very good afternoon to all of you. At the outset, I would like to congratulate the organizers for organizing this event. It's a very, very important and I think timely initiative. The logistics and including cold chain is something very, very, I think, important, integral part of how to take economy forward. As you know, Bangladesh has been facing, the last 15 years under the dynamic leadership of Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, Bangladesh has done very well as far as economic growth goes. But because of the COVID pandemic, the Russian-Ukraine war, sanctions, counter-sanctions, and now recently the situation in the Middle East where the shipping lanes are being affected. So all of this, globally the economy has been affected, the global economy has been affected, and of course Bangladesh being part of the global economy, we are also facing challenges, and we are, our economy at this moment is facing a number of challenges. However, when I am asked that how we are going to meet these challenges, I have always, I felt, and I have always, I have always identified a number of issues which I think is our basic strengths. So, as you know, Bangladesh is one of the most densely populated countries, not one of the most, it is the most densely populated country in the world. Half the population of the United States living in Wisconsin state. That's the comparison I always give. So, however, it can also become, it's a challenge, but we can also convert it into an opportunity. So, in spite of the fact that we have a population of 170, 80 million people, we are self-sufficient in food, and that is very, very important. Food security is extremely important. So we are the fourth largest producer of rice in the world, which is the source of carbohydrate. We are the third largest producer of freshwater fish in the world, which is the source of protein. So the basic carbohydrate protein source being taken care of, we have now gone into diversification of our agriculture sector, of our fisheries, livestock. We are doing very well with the production of chicken, egg, milk, and also livestock, mutton, beef. And on the agriculture side, we are going into a lot of diversification. We have diversified our crops in many ways, and also we are now producing a lot of vegetables, and different varieties of fruits, things which we thought would never be able to be produced in Bangladesh are now being produced. We are growing avocados, strawberries, and a lot of diversification has taken place in the agriculture sector. And Prime Minister has emphasized a lot, and she says that one of our biggest strengths to meet this challenge is the fact that we have to really invest in the agriculture sector. As you know, every time she speaks, she addresses the country, she urges all the citizens that not to leave 1 inch of land uncultivated. That is what she is always putting a lot of emphasis on. And we are seeing that is yielding results. We have also, so this is our first to meet the economic challenges, the global challenges which we are facing. One of the pillar of our strengths, one of the strengths is our agriculture sector and our fisheries, livestock sector. Both of these together combined, I think this is one big strength which we have. We've done very well over there. The second area where I think we have done very well is in creating a physical infrastructure. We have actually created and we have put a lot of emphasis in our ports, in our road network, in our rail network, and in the ports. As you know, we have now allowed private sector participation in the ports. And also the deep sea port in Matabari will be operational in a few years' time. The third terminal in Dhaka airport is going on. So all the physical infrastructure has taken place, and more important, connectivity all over the country. The connectivity in the country through roads and railways have now been really, this thing especially with the construction of the Padda Bridge with the southern part of the country, the southwestern part of the country, has now been connected. So that's again where the physical infrastructure, that's the second thing which we have done. And this physical infrastructure is again not only in the case of this kind of infrastructure, but also if you go into our health and education areas, you will find that physically we have a lot of, in the health sector we have a huge number of community clinics, we have we have health centers in the union, we have Upazila hospitals, we have district hospitals. Physically, all of that is present. In the education sector, we have primary schools and secondary schools at the village level, at the union level, at the Upazila level. So the physical infrastructure is there. Another very, very important, I think, strength which we have is our digital infrastructure. We have been able to lay a fiber optic backbone to the union level. So we have a real digital infrastructure in place. We have our own satellite now. We're going for the second satellite. We have submarine connections, and we are giving broadband is available at the village level. So that's our third, I think, strength. So you all must be wondering what I'm saying, what is all of this got to do with the cold chain. And I think why I'm laying the background of this is that what we now need to do in order to capitalize on the strengths which we have created, we need to bring in soft skills. And both, like in the health sector, in the education sector, we have the physical infrastructure, but we now have to improve the soft skills over there so that we can provide proper health care to the citizens. Similarly, in the education sector, we need to bring in the soft skills required to, and in the agriculture sector also, we need to bring in the soft skills. And in order to bring in soft skills, you need the digital infrastructure, which is also in place. So what I'm trying to say is that we are right at the launching pad of moving forward in where we can actually combine all these strengths which we have in order to get proper results. And that is where the cold chain comes in, is that it's very, very important. I think this, why initially also in my initial opening remarks, I said that this is a very timely initiative. because we are going in for diversification of the agriculture sector. And there, what the figures which the speakers before me have mentioned, the amount of loss that is taking place, and that we have to avoid that, and in order to do that, we have to have a proper cold chain. And when we talk about cold chain, although it was, all the presentations referred to it, but I think it wasn't, I would have wanted some more details on this, and I think obviously in your further sessions you would be talking about this. Cold chain is not just cold storage. The cold chain has to be, the word itself, chain. What does chain mean? Chain means that you start with the cold storage and you go up to the consumer. So we have to have the entire chain has to be properly managed. So you're not talking only about cold chain, you're talking about cold transportation you have to have. And this is, and here the other question here is that it's not only for export diversification. There's a huge domestic market. What the Secretary mentioned a little earlier, that already processed meat, frozen vegetables, food, all of this, domestically there's becoming a huge market for all of that. As the purchasing power has increased of the citizens, we find that there's a lot of, also the demand for these kind of services and goods have also gone up. So this cold chain has to be part of the logistics. So why I gave the background is that since I have the physical infrastructure in place, since I'm now going to have a deep sea port, since already in the port areas we have allowed private sector, what Dr. Masroor Riaz mentioned, that we are now amending the law for the, to get the private sector involved also in the railways. So that we need, until unless we get the private sector involvement, this will never be successful. And for that, I think the necessary steps are, the necessary ecosystem is being put in place. Now it is up to the private sector and the stakeholders to come forward and to actually make this happen. I think there is a huge demand. If this is an area where I think if people invest, they will definitely get returns, because the demand is very much there. The demand for the services is very much there. I have I know of an entrepreneur who is gone and set up a, literally just producing ice in Kuakata. The reason, I said, why are you producing ice? He said, the reason I'm producing ice is because there is a lot of fishermen who come to Kuakata and they need to preserve the fish which they have caught that day. And then they say that they buy the ice from me and they use it over there. So that is actually part of the cold chain. But it's being done in a very unplanned or, but it's basically it's demand and supply. So this guy found out that there is this demand for ice over there and it's a good business to do, and that's how he went and did it. But I think, so these are, I just giving this example that there is a huge opportunity over here which has to go. And of course, we are wanting to diversify our exports, so this is definitely, if we can have a proper cold chain. And what was mentioned in the presentation, the cold chain is not only cold chain, it will actually it will have to move to proper packaging, labeling, so that all of that put together can be used, can give you the advantage when you want to export. And we feel that there's a huge, huge potential to export our to diversify our export in fruits, vegetables, and also ultimately in livestock, fisheries, and milk, chicken. Thailand is a huge importer of chicken. I don't see why we cannot also be a big exporter of chicken. So these are areas where I think need to do. I think what has also been identified that there has to be policy support from the government, especially I think in the tariffs sector. What has been mentioned, and I am in complete agreement, that we need to improve our custom services in the borders And that is also happening, and that again is because of the digital. I think the National Board of Revenue is moving very fast now on getting digitalizing of the services online. A lot of online services are happening. We and BIDA have also, the executive chairman told me a little while ago that we are already over 100 services are now online in our OSS systems. So combining all of this and I think the logistics which is being planned at the Prime Minister's office, we should make cold chain a part of that logistics so that this becomes, we can actually get the full benefit of logistics. So logistics will be diversified into normal logistics as well as cold chain logistics. I'll conclude, before I do that, I'd just like to mention about interest rates. And here the problem with the interest rate is that this is something which is a global phenomena. We are being told that the interest rates will come down. The Fed is going to reduce the interest rates, but that has not happened as yet. And so the interest rates are under pressure, but like the agricultural attaché of the United States US Embassy mentioned, that there can be special financing opportunities, and I think we should work with our friends to see how we can subsidize these interest rates specifically for cold chain investments. It is a challenging problem at the moment, interest rates, but I think we need to find a solution to that. And I think that because cold chain, and it will be so much, you see, the cold chain, as has been pointed out, and I agree 100%, is that not only will it contribute towards diversifying our exports, but more important, it will contribute towards saving a huge amount of loss, the post-harvest loss which takes place. If we have a proper cold chain in place, then that will. So all the private sector representatives over here, I will urge you all to look at possibilities of investing in the cold chain. There are many, many opportunities, and like I said, we have, the country is now poised. We have certain strengths which I have outlined, and the country is now poised to go forward. তো আমি আমার বক্তব্য শেষ করার আগে আপনাদের সকলকে অনেক ধন্যবাদ জানাতে চাই যে আপনারা সবাই এসছেন। আমি যে কথাটা বলেছি, আসলে বেসরকারি খাতকে আমি বলতে চাইবো যে এটা একটা ভালো জায়গায় বিনিয়োগ করার আছে। মাননীয় প্রধানমন্ত্রী কিন্তু সবসময় এই কথাটাই বলেছেন যে আমাদের কৃষি খাতে আমাদের এখানে আমাদের অনেক যেটা উনি বহুমুখী করতে চাচ্ছেন, এটার জন্যে আমি আপনাদের সকলকে আবার অনুরোধ করব যে বেসরকারি খাত থেকে আপনারা এসে যেন এখানে বিনিয়োগ করেন। সরকার তরফ থেকে, আমার নিজের তরফ থেকে আমি আপনাদেরকে আশ্বস্ত করতে চাই আমার দরজাটা সবসময় খোলা আছে। আপনাদের যখনই কোনো প্রয়োজন যদি মনে করেন, আমার সাথে কোনো সমস্যা সমাধান করার জন্য যদি আপনারা মনে করেন, আপনারা যখনই চান আপনারা আমার সাথে দেখা করতে পারেন। তো আপনারা সবাই ভালো থাকবেন, সুস্থ থাকবেন, সুখী থাকবেন, এই কামনা করে আমি আমার বক্তব্য শেষ করছি। জয় বাংলা, জয় বঙ্গবন্ধু, বাংলাদেশ চিরজীবী হোক।
Thank you, respected sir, for sharing your deep and illuminating insights and for your comprehensive portrayal of cold chain opportunities in Bangladesh. Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, we are nearing the end of our event. We will now hear from the esteemed chair of this ceremony, the respected Executive Chairman of the Bangladesh Investment Development Authority and Senior Secretary to the Government, Mr. Lokman Hussain Mia, requesting sir to deliver the vote of thanks and concluding remarks.
Thank you very much, respected Chief Guest, Honorable Private Industry and Investment Advisor to the Prime Minister, Mr. Salman Fazlur Rahman, MP. Respected Special Guest, Secretary, Ministry of Fishery and Livestock, Mr. Salimuddin, President, Bangladesh Cold Storage Association, Mr. Mustafa Azad Chaudhary Babu, Project Director, USAID Bangladesh, and Trade Facilitation Project, Mr. Michael G. Power. Keynote Speaker, Mr. William Fellow, CEO of Policy Exchange Bangladesh, Mr. Masrim Riaz, and Honorable Agriculture Attaché of the U.S. Embassy, Ms. Sarah Galik, business leader from home and abroad, friends from media, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamu alaikum and very good afternoon to all. I'll beginning by thanking all the distinguished speakers. This conference is a part of BIDA, non-stop work to build awareness of coal chain. So I extended very special thanks to the Honorable Advisor, to the Prime Minister for sharing his vast knowledge and for his strong assurance of support and cooperation. I also thank the respected Secretary of Fishery and Livestock for giving priority to this very important issue. Your support for the coal chain sector is critical for our success. I extend my thanks to the distinguished President of BCA, Mr. Mustafa Haidar. I also thank the keynote speaker, Mr. William Fellow, for his valuable, he explained very important point and policy that will be helpful for our coal chain policy. Policy Exchange in Bangladesh, Mr. Masrim Riaz also. I thanks Agriculture Advisor and Attaché of the U.S. Embassy, Ms. Sarah Galki, and U.S. government support for the Bangladesh is such a key area also. Lastly, I thank the Project Director of USAID Bangladesh Trade and Facilitation Project for the partnering with BIDA. We look forward to working with you as a promote and the development the coal chain sector also. Ladies and gentlemen, under the visionary leadership of Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, we are working to build a smart Bangladesh by 2041. It is our privilege that our dynamic and visionary leadership always focus on sustainability, innovation, and technology. The Honorable Prime Minister has made investment promotion on our heart 10 special initiatives because investment will give us a smart benefit like diversification of our export sector, new technology, and better quality and employment. As you know, Honorable Prime Minister gives highest priority to agribusiness as a highly potential export sector. During her leadership, grain production has increased 4 times to 4 crore 92 lakh 16,000 metric ton. Fish production has increased 3 times to more than 53 lakhs metric ton. Livestock, poultry, and tea production has also increased from 2 to 3 times. Bangladesh is currently self-sufficient in food production, second in the world in the dairy, chili, and production, third in the fresh water, fish, and rice production, sixth in tropical fruits, fourth in ginger and potato, eighth in the tea and the pumpkin production. So in the order to get higher priority, productivity, and agro businesses, Bangladesh invite investment in the coal chain sector. We need this technology to reduce the post-harvest loss, which is very higher for the fruits and vegetables, up to 44%. We lost near about $2.4 billion every year because we are doing storage in the traditional style. This is especially important for established like onion, garlics, tomato, potato, etc. We get such good harvest, but we are losing a big share of what we produce. Our storage capacity for fish and milk is also very low. Bangladesh has a huge advantage in agribusiness and will do everything necessary to reach our full potential. We especially need the coal chain to increase our agro, fish, shrimp export to USA, and EU. So as the Apex Investment Promotion Agency of Bangladesh, BIDA, appreciate that cold chain is getting high priority in the national logistic policy being developed under the supervision of the Principal Secretary to the Prime Minister. Incentives are being considered for both local and international investors who participate in cold chain, infrastructure, and services. BIDA will work closely with all stakeholders to identify and implement necessary reform for creating an investment-friendly regulatory framework for cold chain also. For that, we invite collaboration and partnership opportunity with the private businesses, expert, and international organizations. We are also ready to fully facilitate good projects in this sector. So I invite all stakeholders, investors, entrepreneurs, experts, and policymakers to join hands in the endeavor. Please join us in the technical session to the chair by the Senior Secretary of Shipping, Mr. Mustafa Kamal, after lunch. It will be very fruitful discussion and your presence will make it effective. Together, we can build a resilient and dynamic and cold chain logistics sector that will not only help us build a smart Bangladesh, but also contribute to the global supply chain in the magnificent way. Thank you very much for your patient hearing. Joy Bangla, Joy Bangladesh, May Bangladesh live long forever.
Thank you, respected sir, for sharing with us your activities to promote and facilitate investment in the cold chain sector. Esteemed guests, we have reached the end of our opening ceremony, but our event is not over. Our conference will resume after lunch. I cordially request you to join us in this hall for the panel discussion, Ensuring Access to Finance and Conducive Policies to Attract TCL Investment in Bangladesh, to be chaired by Mr. Muhammad Mustafa Kamal, Senior Secretary, Ministry of Shipping. Thank you so much, Excellencies, for joining us.